But more importantly, I know we had some discussions last year at this time about the fall and the rest. I see where the systems are going to be are in place already, but are they going to accept the training that's going to be offered to them?
We're encouraging them as much as possible to take the training. If they don't, they will be put on notice that they will not be able to be our commissioner for that pump station.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Dunn.
Through you, Your Worship. Luann, my question is regarding the, I understand the $18 per hour, but there's a $500 annual fee for certain commissioners, and actually there's 2 commissioners, $500 allotments for the West March.
Yes. Again, most of these people are farmers, retirees. So the West Marsh in particular, because it is a very large drainage scheme, we do recommend having 2 commissioners just because one goes to Florida for the winter. So they do want to keep 2 on staff. The difference between the $500 per hour per year versus the $18 per hour, the one person is in charge of the rest of them. So he gets paid $500 annually to kind of oversee the pump operators.
Okay. Further questions? Not. All in favor of the motion? And carried. Second item on the agenda is one regarding the Leamington Weekly Water Distribution System Inspection Report. Ms. Bellew.
Thank you, Mayor and members of Council. The first report is to recommend that the Ministry of the Environment and Climate Change Drinking Water System Inspection Report for the Wheatley system be received, and also that the report be placed on the municipality's website and made available at the clerk's office during normal business hours. As you know, the Leamington system is made up of 2 distribution systems, the Union and the Wheatley system. And as required by the Safe Drinking Water Act, the distribution systems are inspected annually by the Ministry of the Environment and Climate Change. The Wheatley system was inspected on August 3rd, and we have since received that report. The Union system was inspected at the end of August, and we will shortly have that report and bring that to you under separate cover. The Ministry of the Environment requires that the report be circulated to each member of council and that a resolution be obtained to indicate that the report was received. And the report also has to be made available to the public and advertised as such. The Ministry of the Environment report has been provided to you under separate cover, and it will also be posted on the website where it can be downloaded for review by the public. The main components of the report comprise non-compliance items as well as recommendations or best practices. As part of this report, there was not one non-compliance item noted, and that non-compliance item was related to the alternate contact information for our operating authority, Chatham-Kent, and that was not updated within 10 days of the change in the role at their system. And that's basically a name change from one person to another. Since this was identified, we have updated the profile on our website and the ministry's website, and that was received on August 26th. So there's no further action on that non-compliance item. In terms of the best practices or recommendations, there was one other item noted in the report, and that was related to valve operating exercises that we take over as part of our operators' experience with the system. So this particular recommendation was related to recording additional information on valve maintenance, and I've identified the different things there, the date, the time, the name of the operators, etc. And administration will be working with the ministry inspector to ensure that these items are implemented, and we make sure that their complete recommendation is implemented how they want it to be implemented. There's a certain form that we use, and we just want to make sure that we're covering what they want to see. So overall, the inspection summary rating record for this inspection provided a risk rating of 2.92% and a compliance rating of 97.08%. To give you a little bit of background on that rating, there's a series of questions in each inspection, and the maximum achievable rating for the inspection is set at 137 points. So the one question where we erred on the non-compliance side was rated 4 points. So a score of 4 out of 137 gives you the 2.9% risk rating that they've calculated there. And I believe that covers everything. There's no financial impact for this report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Questions from council? Councilor Verbicki, move receipt of the report. Councilor Wilkinson, support. Questions? All in favor? Carried. And then we have another report regarding the source protection funding agreement. And Ms. Below again.
Yes, thank you. This particular report is to recommend that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute an amendment agreement to the source protection municipal implementation funding that we received back in March. If you recall, we did enter into an agreement in March with the province to receive a $90,000 grant to help subsidize Essex Region Conservation Authority's risk management official and risk management inspector professional service fees. And we were also going to use a portion of that to cover updating the municipal road signage in our municipality. In August of this year, we were required to submit a progress report to the ministry outlining what we had spent our funds on and what we plan to spend our funds on and those associated costs. Administration worked with IRCA to complete that progress report, and during that time it was identified that the service fees that we will be billed by IRCA are not going to be as much as they initially anticipated. Initially they were estimated to be approximately $88,000 of the $90,000 grant, and now we're looking at a cost of probably less than $80,000 for IRCA's fees. In working with IRCA, they directed us to look at including internal staff allocation time to subsidize additional fees that we're incurring when we're looking at agreement reviews and negotiations, updating our official plan to include source water protection activities, and also when we're looking at building and planning application reviews and incorporating those different objectives into that application process. So by including the internal allocations, we were able to illustrate that we would still be able to spend the full $90,000 grant over the 3 years. Having said that, the funding agreement that we signed in March expires in March of 2017, and it allows us to recover costs for an 18-month period, which was from October of 2015 to March of 2017. As part of the progress reports that we submitted, there was a question asking and if there was any obstacles that we would overcome to have to achieve spending that $90,000 grant. And one of the things that IRCA had asked all of the local municipalities to identify was that the timeline was going to be a definite obstacle. We all anticipated that we would have 3 years to spend the grant, and the actual agreement was only for an 18-month period. So we being the local municipalities as directed by IRCA, have indicated in our progress report that the timeline to spend those funds is going to be tight, and we will not be able to achieve that in 18 months. In the report here, I did say that IRCA expects that based on the feedback from the ministry that they will extend that deadline. And I'd like to take that down to say IRCA is hopeful that that will happen. We can't speak on behalf of the ministry, but they are hopeful that based on the feedback that will in fact occur. So one of the other things that the ministry has looked at doing, and that's part of this report, is bringing forward an amendment to allow us more flexibility in spending those funds. And there's two different things. It's looking at non-lead implementing body responsibilities and mutually beneficial funding opportunities. So basically, it's a collaborative effort where we can share those funds. Because the municipalities can't reallocate our funds directly from one to another, we will be able to work with IRCA by signing this agreement, and they will be able to help us reallocate those funds. And in our particular circumstance, where there's multiple municipalities working under the direction of IRCA, we will have that capability. So if there's one municipality that needs additional funds and one that isn't going to spend all of theirs, IRCA can assist us in reallocating those funds. There is no financial impact. Like I said, the initial grant money is the same. It's the $90,000. And we're hoping that this agreement will help us to be able to spend that full amount. Thank you.
Questions? Councillor Jacobs?
Thank you, Worship. Shannon, was there not a significant amount of work already done on this a while back, identifying some of the threats throughout the municipality? like, are they still behind on this? Because I thought a significant amount of that work was already completed.
Yes, a significant amount was completed beforehand. However, the agreement timeline was from October of 2015 to March of 2017. And a lot of those policies where we were identifying the threats that were vulnerable areas in our municipality and the significant drinking water threats being the fuel storage tanks, that was all done prior to that date. But we were able to recover some of the costs for negotiating the RMO and RMI agreement with IRCA. A lot of the policy work that was done by IRCA was done up front and ahead of that. So we have seen one bill from IRCA, but that has been it so far.
What are council's wishes then? We had to have a recommendation moved by Councillor Beakey, supported by Councillor Dunn. Discussion on the motion. All in favor? And carried. Thank you. Next report is one regarding the blanket resolution for rooftop solar. Ms. Orton?
Thank you. On December 10th, 2012, Council passed a support resolution for version 3.0 of the feed-in tariff program under the Green Energy Act, supporting the construction and operation of rooftop solar generation projects. Following that, in 2015, applicants requested that the municipality pass another resolution specifically to address a change in language set out by the IESO for the required notice to proceed. And on September 21st, 2015, Council considered a report and the following resolution was passed. And that resolution is set out in the report. I won't read it, but it was a blanket support resolution in order for an application to be given a notice to proceed. And that notice to proceed was effectively a contractual stage where the developer was obligated to submit certain requirements to the IESO. And upon acceptance of those requirements, the IESO would waive its option to terminate the contract. Solar Power Network is a solar power developer that has received approval for several projects in Leamington. It did proceed to receive its next step approval in the process for certain of those properties. However, some remain outstanding. Due to the pending expiration of the council resolution that was passed last September, Solar Power Network is requesting that council pass the same resolution in order to extend the expiry date an additional 12 months for 6 projects that have not been completed, and those projects are also listed in the report. So the recommendation is that council pass a new municipal council blanket support resolution in order for the application to be given a notice to proceed in accordance with the wording as provided within the report. I do understand that our fire chief has expressed some concern in the past regarding resolutions of this kind, and I did have discussions with him today regarding those concerns, and he is content that he can address concerns that he has in any fire safety plans that are required to be submitted for vulnerable occupancies. So those were like schools or retirement homes or long-term care homes that may apply under the FIT program. So he has determined that any concerns he has for fire safety can be addressed through the submission of those fire safety plans, and that he receives the building permits when the solar energy applications come forward to our building department, and he is aware of and can review them at that time.
Okay, thank you very much. Questions, Council? Councillor Hammond?
Your Worship, thank you. Yeah, Ruth and I had a quick discussion about this today, and I think it's important to note as we look forward to pass this resolution that those that come in and apply for a permit need to understand that they need to contact their insurance carrier, because a lot of insurance companies will not insure homes that have solar panels on roofs. Part of the reason being that most firefighting is done defensively then, which means from the outside. There's extra weight on the roofs. There's no way of shutting these panels off. I mean, they continue to provide hydro if the sun's shining, even if the place is on fire. So, and again, we talked about this last June or September too, that I think it's incumbent upon us, as I said, when someone comes in and looks for a permit, they need to be made aware of that fact, that they need to go and talk to their insurance carrier.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Moved by Councillor Jacob, support by Councillor Wilkinson. Discussion on the motion? All in favor? And carried. Next item on the agenda is a report regarding the water main crossing of Highway 77. Ms. Orton.
As council may recall, in August, council authorized the entering into of a site plan agreement with Cervini Farms, 1993 Inc., for the construction of its first phase of greenhouse development on Essex Road 14, and it's an approximately 20-acre development. There is an aerial map in your report that shows the location of that development. In order to obtain water service to the property, a water main crossing Highway 77 is required. And to allow for that crossing, the municipality must enter into an agreement with the MTO because Highway 77 is a provincial highway. The cost of the pipe would be to Cervini Farms, Inc. It's responsible for all costs associated with the construction of that water main. However, when the water main is constructed, it becomes part of the municipal infrastructure and it's owned by the municipality. So the recommendation is that council authorize the entering into the agreement with Her Majesty the Queen in the right of the province of Ontario for the construction of a water main crossing across Highway 77 to allow for that water service to Cervini Farms, Inc., located at 731 Essex Road 14, and then the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the agreement.
Questions from council? Moved by Councillor Hammond, support by Councillor Dunn. Discussion on the motion? All in favor? Carried. Next item on the agenda is a report regarding position reviews, and that will be Mr. Neufeld.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a follow-up review to work that was done a year ago, a little over a year ago. And in particular, and I'll break them out by position. The first one is the Economic Development Officer position. We know that economic development is a major strategic initiative for this council and administration. And this position, when we hired an economic development officer, and I'll say it just one more time, at the time I wasn't really quite ready to do that. But we recognized, we being council and administration, we recognized that this position was going to grow and it was going to become of greater importance as time went by. And so there was a commitment that let's get started with an economic development officer, and as the responsibilities grow, that we will commit to reviewing this position and its responsibilities. That is what we're doing now. In conjunction with this position, Council has also recently approved the position tourism officer. We also recognize that tourism is one of the three pillars of economic development, and subsequently this tourism position we are proposing will now report through to the the manager of economic and community development. The last part of that title, Community Development, you'll recall from our most recent strategic planning meeting that the community development piece is the third pillar of importance for economic development. So what we are attempting to do here is recognize the importance of economic development, especially business retention and expansion here in our municipality, the importance of tourism and its connection to economic development, as well as community development. So this position has been, the job description has been rewritten to reflect the actual work being done by the current position, and the title being changed also is reflective of this work, Manager of Economic and Community Development. So the review committee reviewed the position with respect to salary, applying the evaluation tool that has been previously approved by council, and you can see by my report that the position is now expected to fall under pay category grade 7. Now, going back to the position of communications officer, communications was also something that was highlighted as important by council, communications, especially external to our taxpayers and to the public in general. This was shown as an important position in the 2013 organizational review that was done before my time here. But as the previous CAO, Bill Mark, was leaving, it was important, I know from council's perspective, that we continue to follow through on the recommendations that were made under that report. Unfortunately, these sorts of changes cause a change in salaries. And so council's position at the time was that it was important that we have this increased communications, but there was no commitment to actually creating the position. And so in an attempt to move this forward, I recommended that we look at dividing the assistant to the CAO and mayor's position, dividing it 50% into the communications and 50% remaining as the executive assistant, and give it time to grow. And in particular, in that report a year ago, I suggested that we wait and see how the position evolves, and so that we could get together a communication strategy. Communication strategy has been completed and is implemented. As you can see, there has been a dramatic increase in the amount of communication with the general public. To name a few things, one would be the card that we put out, "Where do your taxes go?" showing that almost half of it goes to the county just to begin with, and breaks it out by cost area. This was again a council initiative that wanted to see an improved communications. We've also seen a dramatic increase in social media, whether it is through our Facebook page or Twitter. We are posting things like road closures, and we are highlighting some of the tourism and economic development initiatives as well. So for all of those reasons, let me finish by saying, over the last year, that position has also evolved to the point where the executive assistant role or duties has decreased to virtually nothing. Currently, Kelly spends probably 99.9% of her time in the communications and public relations area, and so we had committed again that once this position had evolved, once the once the communication strategy had been completed, that we would review this position. And again, the committee reviewed this position utilizing the same evaluation tool, and that position has been now assigned a level of grade 5. I will note that we are, in speaking with the mayor, we are going to see how we can utilize our current workforce to accomplish what we need to have accomplished. If there are reports, if there are writing, typing, those sorts of clerical duties, we're going to try and see if we can utilize the current workforce rather than replacing this position, at least for the time being, as there are other changes afoot. But in the end, we are not going to, not removing this position, as it were, right now, but we're going to try to find some efficiencies elsewhere in the departments to see if we can get our work handled that way. So my recommendation is that we rename the position of Economic Development Officer to Manager of Economic and Community Development. And I would like to add in this regard that this position has grown in importance and in the amount of work. But I think that what's unique about this, what I'm grateful for, is that as the position has grown, the incumbent has also been able to fill the duties. This isn't a case where somebody's job has outgrown them. That happens from time to time. In this particular case, that is not the case here. So my recommendation is to change this position to the Manager of Economic and Community Development, and also that the Communications Officer and Executive Assistant to the CAO and Mayor be renamed to the Manager of Communications and Public Relations.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Councillor Jacobs?
Thank you, Worship. I just have one comment in respect to the communications. I think it's great, and what it does, it gives an air of transparency to the work of the council and to administration. And I think that's important, that the public see exactly what's going on. At times, I'm sure every one of us councillors and that, we're bombarded with how come, why, for, and, these different types of questions. But I believe that the transparency now that is being displayed and published, on the websites and everything is a great advantage to us. And the other comment I had is, as far as the economic officer goes, economic development, and I know that Janine has worked, tirelessly in a lot of those particular areas, but do we actually have what has been accomplished through that position? I mean, I know that there's several projects that went on and, the different businesses that have moved in with her assistance, but I just wonder, would we ever be able to see exactly what's going on with that particular position? And she's smiling at me back there, but I'm not questioning it, believe me.
Through you, Mayor, the most recent report, you will recall, Janine gave a report at the strategic initiatives, right? The meeting that we had, and if council is interested in seeing more of those reports, I'm sure we could set something up on a 6-month basis so that council can be kept apprised of the economic situation in Leamington.
If I may, Your Worship, I think that would be great because there's so much activity going on now. I mean, I think Leamington, the comments I get is sort of starting to bust up at the seams, and there's a lot going on, and I think sometimes it moves so rapidly we miss some of it. And I think it would be great if we could have some type of information, every 6 months or so it doesn't take up too much time, But and I would say that she's done a bang-up job, and I wish I had the energy that she has, so believe me.
Councillor Dunn?
Through you, Your Worship. My comments are simply that these ladies are excellent. When it comes to their energy and being involved with so much, on the different committees I've been a part of, Janine, there's people I've met from Windsor that Janine's already knows, and actually she's already got things rolling, many things rolling in so many different directions. It's absolutely incredible. When you talk to her, she's bubbly and she's got more ideas going than all of us combined. So I really think this is a worthwhile adventure. I support it wholly.
Mr. Neufeld?
Yeah, I appreciate your comments. We recognize that in administration as well, but I think it's important for council to recognize that this report is not this is not a performance report. This isn't pay for their performance. Regardless of the performance, these positions rated this way through the evaluation tool, regardless of who would have been in it. I think that's why I wanted to say I'm very pleased that as this position has grown, that the skill sets that we have within these positions is also sufficient, if not exceeds, the requirements of these positions. But please recognize that this is not a raise for performance. This is about the position itself, regardless of the incumbent.
And just quickly for me on the communication side, what I've noticed as well, it's not just so much about our general public being well informed and the transparency and all that kind of stuff, but it's the relationship that is opening up with the media itself. We have received far more coverage than most municipalities in our county and probably in our southwestern Ontario because of the efforts of this communications officer. It's something we've needed for a long time to get our name out there, which is something that I think we've all said in our strategic reviews past, is to raise the level of awareness of Leamington in, not just in the county, but in our province and in our country. And this is what's happening with her efforts right now. That, as well as dealing with the different ministries. When they contact us, this position takes all of that information, directs it correctly, and gets back to whomever it has to be. So it's far more far-reaching than just what the CIO has referred to in social media and stuff like that. It's big, and I hate to admit it, but we don't have any help anymore for Peter and I. But we'll survive. This is far more important. So anyway, so we do have a recommendation before us, moved by Councillor Dunn and seconded by Councillor Hammond. Discussion on the motion. All in favor? Carried. There's matters for approval at the Leamington Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting held June 8th. Looking for mover and seconder. Councillor Hammond, Councillor Dunn. Discussion on the motion. All in favor? Carried. No other matters for consideration, no closed session, so on accessibility? Okay.
Worship, I apologize. I should have jumped in a little sooner. I just wanted to comment on the fact that our next meeting for accessibility is going to be held at the complex, and how thankful we are that we're able to get the new hand railing installed down in the middle of one of those rows. There was a number of people at the last game come up and commented about, of course, they're all wanting to know when we're going to do it elsewhere, but they were really appreciative of the fact, and I thank you for taking the initiative to get that done. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that was the initiative from the committee, I believe, so that's good. Good that it's done. Consideration of bylaws. Ms. Percy?
Bylaw 5316 being a bylaw to appoint commissioners and establish annual fees for the better maintenance of various municipal drainage schemes throughout the municipality of Leamington. Bylaw 5716 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council from its meeting held September 19th, 2016.
Council moved by Councillor Berbicki, supported by Councillor Jacobs. Discussion on the motion. All in favor? Carried. There were no notices of motion circulated, so we're in open session for council admin. Councillor Hammond.
Your Worship, thank you. We've talked about this a number of times, and at least I have. And I'm now referring to the ongoing labor dispute with the library board. The ladies aren't here tonight, but you know, they're entering their 87th or 88th day, which is in most parts unheard of for a labor dispute to go on that long. My suggestion would be to this, that possibly you could look at, when you return to county council again, you could bring forward the idea, unless it's been discussed already, that we return them to the job, return them to work. We're not going to give them a wage increase, we're not going to take anything away, and continue negotiating when they're on the job. That way the residents of our municipality and the others don't have to be without the library service. I mean, we all know this has gone on far too long. And I think just return them to work and deal with the labor dispute as it happens.
Okay. Carry that forward. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to say that I went to the Highline Mushroom 55-year celebration on Saturday. It was an all-day affair. We got on a limo bus with the new owners from Fife's from Ireland, and also the owners of the company that Fife's just purchased from BC. So there were about close to 20 of us, and we toured the point, and then we toured a couple of wineries, and then we went back to the plant, and there was a picnic for 800 of their employees. It was an incredible, it was a great day. First of all, it was really nice to meet the folks from away, and an opportunity to promote our region. And they loved it here. They didn't mind the rain a bit, told us it felt like home, both from being from Ireland and the ones from BC. And then what really got me at the picnic, first of all, to see so many cultures being represented in one workplace. A little bit at the beginning, it reminded me of the Heinz picnic, because they had an area for kids and things for adults. They had draws for televisions and all kinds of things going on. But what I was most impressed with was the feeling of family. Didn't matter what the cultural background was. They were intermingling and talking and slapping each other on the back. It was incredible to see that kind of an atmosphere in a workplace, unlike what you were just talking about. You know, you have a sense of respect and appreciation from the employer down to, they call them their associates, and vice versa. And as folks left, they thanked us for coming, and it was just, I was touched by the whole thing. Glenn Miller, the CAO of Highline Mushrooms, mentioned to me that at any time, if we'd like a tour, they'd be more than happy to have all of council there. They're great corporate citizens. They seem to fly under the radar for the most part. They treat their employees very well in all aspects of job benefits and wages, but ultimately respect. We met a lady who emigrated here from Iraq 15 years ago, came here, she told us, without a single word of English. And she came up to thank us. She's a supervisor on one of the lines, and talked about how she'd come here and wouldn't dream of going back because she'd be killed. So she's found a better life, and it's here. It really warmed my heart to see it. So I wanted you to know that I went to it and what a great thing it was, and I didn't mind it. The fact that it took the whole day, I enjoyed every minute of it and thanked them for inviting us. So just wanted you to know. Thank you.
Anything else from council? Admin? No? Real quick from me then, Deputy Mayor, first of all, thank you very much for representing me and the rest of council on that. And I think back to the first time that we were invited out by the original owners of Highline Mushrooms, and those were the things we saw even then. So I'm glad this is carrying on, and it sounds like it's even better than it was. So very, very good news. I'd also like to congratulate you and the staff members that were involved in the volunteer awards night, which we just did last week, and I thought it was another excellent event. The cooking, little suspect, Mr. Sharon and Mr. Neufeld, but all in all, I thought the awards were given out very, very nicely, kept things moving along really well, and thank you very much again for doing that on council's behalf. Are there any statements of members non-debatable? If not, then I'll accept a motion to adjourn. Councillor Hammond, Councillor Wilkinson, discussion on that motion? Really? No discussion? All in favor? Carried.